Hello and welcome to Irresistible You. I'm your host, Karen Seltz. So excited about this particular episode. I had a conversation. I was actually interviewed on a podcast, and a woman was talking about being in 12-step programs. And when she heard other people's stories about how difficult their lives had been, like what they had gone through, she felt like what she had been through wasn't as big. So we're talking about the difference between small t or little t trauma and big T trauma, and how she said something like, your trauma is your trauma. Like, and I've had this situation. I remember when I was in 12 step hearing these stories that were absolutely horrific and thinking, gosh, I haven't been through anything compared to this person or that person. And feeling like I didn't have the right to be as messed up as I was because I hadn't gone through the degree of trauma that other people had. So I want to talk about how the subconscious mind stores trauma, traumatic events, and what it does with them and how it interfaces with the conscious mind. And if you know me, you know I use my hands like this is the conscious mind, this is the subconscious mind, this is unprocessed data. So if we're playing charades, this is what's happening. So you know my hand signals. If you are new to me, I help people overcome anything difficult that the subconscious mind is still processing. And I create this blank slate, this freedom, this clarity. And the comment that I hear most often from clients is, wow, this was the missing piece. This was the part that helped me integrate and implement everything I've ever learned. So if you're one of those people that gets really excited to learn new things and you have a bunch of ahas and you go back to the same behaviors like a couple days later or a couple weeks later, welcome to the human race. That is your subconscious mind at play. It will always go back to programs unless you shift how the data is stored and where it is stored. And I'm going to talk a bit about that as well. So many people that come to me have done all the things. They've done all the coaching, they've read all the books, they've gone to therapy, they've done EFT, EMDR, like so many different things. And nothing really does it exactly what they hoped it would. And it still leaves this residue behind. And I come in like with a shop vac and I clean that crap out. So there's your metaphor for you. What I want to talk about first is when difficult or traumatic things happen to us. And it could be like you went to school and you had a sweater on that people made fun of. It could be a bad haircut in elementary school, something that was difficult. Or it could be big stuff like your parents separated when you were young, your dog died, you watched a parent or a loved one die or get sick, or your parent was hospitalized, or your parent died and your other parent said, oh, they went to be with God in heaven. You still read that as abandonment. So anything at all that's happened to us over the course of our lifetimes, we get bumped and bruised, of course. And when we have these bigger bumps and bruises, they kind of can accumulate and they stay stuck in the unconscious or subconscious mind. Now, just to let you know, I use those two terms interchangeably. So I will say subconscious mind sometimes, I'll say unconscious mind sometimes. I mean the same thing by them. Not everyone does. So let's talk about how the mind stores difficult or traumatic events. When something happens that triggers any type of fight, flight, or freeze response, that's a trauma. That's a difficult event. Anytime we get triggered, that's triggering something, fight or flight, in order for you to survive. So when those things happen, imagine you're at the beach and you take your hand and you slam it into the sand and you pull it out and it leaves a handprint. You can see that. That is what happens with all of these difficult or traumatic events. Some people don't relate to the term trauma, so I will use difficult events because if they're little t, some of us are like, don't cry over spilled milk kind of thing, but there's still trauma to the brain. And I'm going to explain that in a minute, so stick with me. So tonight's episode is going to be about 3 signs that these past events are still affecting you and what you can do about that. So imagine the handprint in the sand. Now, think about all the difficult things that have happened to anybody over the course of a lifetime. Let's use you for an example, right? Your mind stores those in a different way, in a different place. So, number one, they're in high definition. So, you can probably remember what time of day it was, what time of year it was, what it smelled like, what it looked like. Was it raining? Was it sunny? Who was there? What were they wearing? I mean, there's a ton of details that your mind stores. And that is by design. That is in order to protect you. So when you remember what happens, you there's all of those details that the subconscious mind is filtering through. And here's the thing, when they get stored and they're still running under the surface, the subconscious mind, when you think about them, does not know the difference between real and imagined. And everything that you can remember is sort of like being imagined because it's not happening. The subconscious mind thinks everything is happening now. So when you remember how you were bullied in second grade, your subconscious mind thinks it's happening now. So it's preparing you. It's going to flood the body with the same emotions, the same chemicals, the same adrenaline in order to help you to survive it. So let's use bullying as an example. If the bully was bigger than you, chances are you felt fear. And fear is very useful in order to run really fast to escape a predator. Now, how long can you run fast? Not long. You can run for a very short period of time and you will run out of energy. It also increases your visual acuity so you can see the best path to escape. And it gets you super motivated. Now, if you're not going to run away, what happens to that chemistry? It stays in your body, but produces corresponding thoughts and more emotions. And most people, even though they have extra strength in their legs, if they don't use it, it feels very uncomfortable and can be interpreted as weakness. It feels weird, tingly, like heaviness, maybe even. If you were running, it would feel really good. It'd feel really good to run if you're afraid, but we rarely ever do it. And that's part of this primitive mind, the subconscious mind. It's designed for situations that most adults will never be in. Now, I'm not going to say kids because for me, fear was very useful growing up. I had 2 older brothers that weren't always nice to me physically. So it was very useful for me to be able to run fast. And run fast, I did. I was super fast. But only for a short period of time. I could outrun them, hide so they couldn't find me, and wait for them to cool down or forget about me. And then I would go back. Now, same thing with anger. Anger is useful if you're going to bite someone. Anger makes your jaw very, very strong. It makes your limbs strong too, so you could punch someone. As an adult, it's not likely you're ever going to bite or punch someone. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But if you're doing it out of anger, like if you ask a cage fighter, is it useful for you to be angry? They will say, hell no, because they lose access to their conscious mind. They lose access to creativity, strategic thinking. Yeah, they might be stronger for a few minutes, but how long are they in that cage? They have to be able to outsmart their opponent to try to determine what they're going to do. You cannot do that if you don't have access to your conscious mind. And that's the first thing to shut off. So I had a client today and I was talking to him about interactions with his wife. And what would happen is there'd be like an anger response from his wife and a fear response from him. And I said, number one, neither of you has access to your conscious mind at that point. So perhaps make some agreements to not engage when you're in an activated state. So that's number one, because neither one of you has access to compassion, creativity, love, compassion, none of that, humor. Creativity, I probably said, but strategic thinking, focus, logic, gone out the window. So, first sign, how do you know if you have unresolved trauma that's still running you? There are a million signs. I'm going to give you a couple. One is when you think about an event that's over and you have any type of disturbing response, like you might be like, God, can't believe that happened. So it's a thought. The emotion might be anger, frustration, irritation, sadness, regret, shame, guilt, any of those, that is a sign that the subconscious mind is still thinking it's happening. Because the only purpose of a disturbing emotion, thought, sensation, or habit is for you to take an action. When you think about an event that's over with and you feel any of those disturbing things, that is your subconscious mind trying to protect you. It wants you to stay alive. So it's producing that in order to get you to take an action. When does it want you to take an action? Now. When did the event happen? 30 years ago. So what is there to do about it? Not a damn thing. Nothing. There's nothing you could possibly do today to die 30 years ago. I mean, if you're still here with us in a body, right? Nothing. I promise you, you can't die 30 years ago. If you're watching this, you can't. I promise. It's guaranteed. And once the subconscious mind gets that in a language it understands, which is a whole nother topic, then it stops producing those thoughts, feelings, sensations, and habits because it gets there's nothing for you to do to survive that thing that happened because you've already survived it. And then it can exhale. It can then sit back and relax and allow you to go into rest and digest, which is a parasympathetic nervous system response. That's when we're, everything's great, everything's cool. There's nothing to do except rest, regenerate. Your body can repair itself. You can think creatively. You can meditate. You can make love. You can laugh. You can think that people coming at you with angry tirades are adorable. They're so cute. Look at them, because they really can't do it any differently. So there's one of your signs. You still feel some type of disturbing feeling when one of these things happens. All right. Another one, this is pretty common, is there's something boiling right under the surface. You're like one trigger away from either anger or sadness. And if you're not like this, I know you know someone who is. You don't know what's going to trigger them, so you walk on eggshells. And it could be either way. It could be anger, like they get mad because you forgot to do something or you did something, left your socks on the floor, or their feelings are hurt a lot. That is definitely a sign of this stuff. It's unresolved. It's still going on. And what happens is before we're 7 years old, we are all unconscious mind. We live from here. Our brain waves are also very slow. They're in an alpha brainwave state. Well, even slower earlier on. But after like 2 or so, or 3, you're in pretty much an alpha brainwave state, which is a state of hypnosis, a state of trance. So everything that comes in unfiltered, as if it's fact. You know, when you're watching TV late at night and have the lights off and there's all these flashes of light, that's one way to trigger the survival instinct. And those flashes of light tell your brain, if you look away, you could die. So think about, you ever get stuck watching TV and you can't look away? You're like, I don't know why I'm still here. I'm so tired, but I can't move. Yeah, it's all those flashes of light. That's an aside. The other thing is, if you're watching something that's fairly engaging, your mind kind of shuts off and you're just like in it. You're not having any other thoughts. You're like in the story. That is an alpha brainwave state. It's slower than conscious waking state where you're thinking and you're interacting. Like right now, I'm in a low beta. I'm relaxed, but I'm really paying attention to what I'm saying. I'm not paying attention to how my mouth moves to form certain letters or sounds. That is all directed by the unconscious mind. So when you're in that alpha brainwave state, everything gets in unfiltered. You accept, believe, and surrender to everything that gets in. But not only that, you create meaning with a really young, immature, beautiful mind. And that meaning is often about you, because up to a certain age, you're also egocentric, which means everything revolves around you. So if your dog gets sick and dies, you must have been a really bad boy or girl, or else why would that have happened? If there's a tornado on your street, you must have been really bad. If your mom and dad get in a fight, you must have caused it. You must have been really bad. So you can see how those things don't make sense to an adult mind. It doesn't matter. We call that in rapid resolution therapy, all that stuff that gets in at a young age, we call it red sand. And if you had a clear vase in front of you and the first, bottom 3 or 4 inches was red sand, and then everything else that happened on top of it is blue sand, and you add like feet, you have 3 inches of red sand and you add like 10 feet of blue sand, guess what color this stuff is at the bottom? It's still red. And guess what you're filtering it through? The red sand. So even when things don't make sense to you consciously, the program's there. You're still going to interpret things through that lens and behave accordingly. So that's another way. So one thing is people often will have trouble sleeping at night. They lay down and there's all these things playing in their head, or they have dreams about things that are unresolved and they don't rest well. That's definitely another sign. And then I'm going to give you one more, but I'm going to tell you all kinds of things along the way. The other one is you keep repeating patterns. So maybe you keep attracting bosses that are difficult, difficult, right? So you make out here, the people out here, the problem, but you keep attracting the exact same scenarios over and over. You don't like them consciously, but you keep creating them. Or maybe it's a romantic relationship where you're not respected, or somebody keeps cheating on you. Those are what we call stucknesses, where you keep doing the same things over and over. And that is definitely stuck data. The subconscious mind is wired for more of the same. What is known to you is considered to be safe. I use this example a lot because I think we all know somebody, like a woman who's been abused physically. I believe we all do. And most people will say to her, "Why do you stay?" And she can't really give you any reasons that make sense, because it doesn't make sense. But to the subconscious mind, he hasn't killed her yet. So that's safe. It's safer than leaving, because leaving is the unknown. If she were to leave, she could die any number of ways. So her subconscious mind's like, he hasn't killed you yet. You're better off staying. So there will be all these logic and reasons coming at her to stay. And the number one will be fear. If you leave, the moment she thinks about leaving, there's so much fear. Like, what is he going to do? What's going to happen to me? Then he will kill me if I leave. All those things come flooding in, and they make perfect sense to somebody who doesn't have access to their logical mind. Because if you're in fear, what shuts off? Yes, your conscious mind, your logic, your reason, your creativity, the part that makes you, as a personality. So there's a few things. Now, what do you do about it? We are not taught growing up how to speak to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is responsible for more than 95% of everything you think, feel, believe, and do. It is handling everything that you're not conscious of. And some people say they can multitask. They're technically switching between tasks quickly. The conscious mind can only hold one thought at a time. So that's why you'll hear people say affirmations and things like that just to replace the thought. That's fine. Subconscious mind, when you're saying an affirmation, is like, bullshit, right? It's calling BS if it's something that you don't believe. So the subconscious mind handles all the filtering of data. So everything that you're watching, it is recording it. Millions of bits of information every single second it's filtering through. Imagine if you had to keep track of all that to stay safe consciously. You'd never do it. And imagine last time you drove home from work, you went the same way. Often you have no idea how you got home. You just know you made it. We're not conscious because it's been put on autopilot. Your subconscious mind automates everything for you. How do you move your tongue to say a T or an L or an S? You don't think about that. If you were in an argument and you had to think about how to make a T sound, you wouldn't be doing very well, right? You just can't. You think about one thing at a time consciously. Now, the unconscious, it has your best interests at heart. Many people will say things like, I self-sabotage, or I'm in these destructive patterns. And it's again coming from the subconscious mind, keeping you alive. Now, it's very primitive. The subconscious mind is about as smart as a 4-year old. And I'm not joking. It doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing you and somebody being mad at you. It will produce the exact same chemistry in your body so that you can run really fast or fight them. And yes, it's useful to outrun a lion. It's not useful to outrun someone who's mad at you, usually, unless they're going to hurt you. But usually, like I said, that's not the case. The mind is built for these situations we're most likely never going to find ourselves in, at least in this side of the world. Yes? Yes. So, what do you do about all this stuff? Well, what I do is rapid resolution therapy, and that is a form of multi level communication. Some people are somewhat familiar with hypnosis, and that is speaking to the subconscious mind. There's a little bit of that involved in RRT, or rapid resolution therapy, but we do multi level communication. So I'm speaking to the conscious mind, making sure I make sense, because if I don't make sense up here, this is the guardian. You're never going to relax enough to let me in and get to be able to talk to the subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind understands simple actions. So one of the things I tell people is, if you want a new habit or behavior or characteristic is a big one, right? If you want to be successful, look at somebody successful or lots of successful people and break down their behaviors into like 6 or 7 specific behaviors. You can learn those. What does it take to be successful? What do they do that other people don't do? You can build those. Those are things you could do, and the subconscious mind understands it. The subconscious responds to specificity. Say that 3 times fast. Very specific information. It does not understand concepts or generalizations. So, I want to be abundant. Well, what the heck does that mean, right? Stand on one foot. I could do that. It understands make a phone call. It understands send an email, do a Facebook Live. It understands all of that because it's very specific action steps. Those are all things you can do. Check your bank account balance every day, whatever. Now, affirmations, they only work if they have those action steps in there. Like, what do successful people do? They remember people's names. So you figure out how to do that. How do you remember people's names? Well, you be present. How do you be present? You clear up all this stuff that's been running so that you have energy for this present moment. When this stuff, all these events have been running, it's like those old computers, they get hot, they overheat, they don't have capacity for new information because all of it's going toward fixing the past. So when you get this stuff into long-term storage, it becomes wisdom. Dr. Joe Dispenza says a memory without an emotional charge is wisdom. That's where we want everything so that you're free to move about the cabin. So if you have all this stuff, it's a very cluttered environment and you can't move without like bumping into something like, oh gosh, there's that thing I did and that thing that someone did to me. And it's pretty cluttered in there. So I clear that out using these very simple, very quick processes. And a good friend of mine who I recently collaborated with, Jennifer McKenzie, she said that I am the darkness and she is the light. And here's what she meant. Not that I personally am the darkness, but what I do deals with the darkness. It takes the things out of the shadows, shines a light on them, puts them into long-term storage, gets the good news to the subconscious mind. Hey, this stuff's over with. There's nothing for you to do about it. Remember what I said earlier? The only purpose of a disturbing thought, emotion, sensation in the body, or habit is to get you to take an action. This is very useful if you put your hand on a hot stove and you recoil in pain. If you had left it there, it would have created a lot of damage. And if you left it there long enough, you'd probably die. So you want that response. That's functional, that's working. When you get that response to something that's not happening now, very normal. super normal. If we went on a scavenger hunt looking for someone where that's not going on, we'd be very frustrated. We'd be out there a long time. And it is normal and it's still not useful, which makes it dysfunctional. It's not serving you. So when we take all that stuff and I get the good news to the unconscious mind in a language it understands, it's like, oh, this isn't happening. What? Oh, nothing for me to do. It stops producing those unpleasant emotions, thoughts, and sensations, including physical pain, including the self sabotage stuff that people talk about. And what happens is you're free and clear, and you have access to a ton of energy. And that energy can be used toward creativity, positivity, humor, strategic thinking, focus, motivation. What? Yeah, motivation isn't something you're born with. It comes from paying attention. Well, first clearing out all the crap, right? And then changing your focus. You start to notice what's working, what's good in your life, and where you're moving toward. So, in an RRT session, every single thing we do is motivated by the intention, which is set pretty close to the beginning of the session. Where do I want to see someone's mind? How do I want to see them behaving and responding to things? Because it's very common, extremely common, for people to think that what's happening, their response to things is coming from what's happening out here. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic and you respond, it is super common to think, well, that a-hole cut me off. That's why I'm mad. It's not true. What's happening is it's the way your mind is processing the data that creates the anger response. Because I tell you, most of the time when someone cuts me off, I am rarely ever angry. Sometimes I might for a moment go, like if it was really close, it will scare me. And then I breathe and I reset because I've cleared so much of this crap that I don't have a response. And you know what? The only purpose for a response is to keep me alive. And I quickly get, hey, I'm still alive. Nothing happened. But people will say, but they could have killed me. I could have I could, but you didn't. You didn't. Therefore, any response beyond your initial response is dysfunctional. It's a waste of your energy, complete waste. And I get that it's out of your control because if you're reacting to it, that's the data that's stuck. If you want to not react to it, call me, set up a call. Let's deal with it. And that could be anything. It could be your kids, your spouse, your business partner, your boss, your employees, anybody at all that you interact with. If you're having any triggers pop up, that, my friend, is unresolved trauma. And it can be pretty easily resolved and put in the basement in long-term storage where you're no longer dealing with it. My mission in life is to eliminate suffering, and most of it is caused by this unresolved trauma and the meaning that we make about ourselves and the world because these things have happened. When you take away the meaning and you can become neutral to events. Now, I study A Course in Miracles, and one of the sayings is all events are neutral. And I didn't get that for a very long time, or maybe I got it conceptually up here, but now I get it. If you look at any event, any 100 people are going to respond differently to it. And the way they respond is always based on past. They're taking their past, they're filtering through that red sand, through that lens, and then making meaning about the people, about the world, about themselves. So if you look at it that way, how do you want to be? How do you want to respond to things? What do you want to create? What the hell are you here for? You're not here to suffer. You are here to thrive. You are here to be happy, be joyful, be peaceful, to explore, to take risks. And that has been trained out of most of us our entire lives. And it's time to take that back, because what's creating the fear of doing that, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, is that red sand. And when that gets removed, you are so free. And it's just miraculous to watch. So I will link up in the comments if you want to book a free discovery call with me. We can talk through like some of what's been happening recently. and I could make a suggestion. Number one, I cannot help everyone. I will tell you that right now. If I don't think I can help you, if you're above my pay grade, I will let you know. I promise you that. I promise you. And if I can help you, I will make a recommendations of how many sessions I believe would be best for you. So if you're up for that, I will link it in the comments. Please comment. Let me know what you're taking away from this episode. And I hope to see you. I won't be here next week. I'm going to be on a trip. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. I love you. Mwah.